Thanks, Ursula. Appreciate it. For anyone who thinks Paul Walsh, who spoke last year, has had a really bad year, I am a different Paul Walsh, and he's much better looking. I don't think he's here today, but I think some of his team are. Yeah, delighted to be here. So I cover Amazon, more so marketplaces. That's quite timely because Amazon have just pushed out a directory that nobody can use Amazon in their brand name anymore. So all things Amazon is about to become all things marketplace, and that is as of today. So that transition's ongoing. Some of the emails and stuff are starting to move over. Bear with me. Clients don't know yet, so keep that one to yourselves. And Paul Walsh, who I did make the joke about, someone mentioned to me last year about him. I think I was speaking to the team here, and they were like, "Oh, there's another Paul Walsh," and I was like, "I have heard of him before." So I decided to send him a message and have the crack to see how he would respond. And thankfully he took it in good humour, and the conversation started there. So he's added the Anthony in order to SEO differ me and him. And I actually messaged him last week and said, "Look, I think we need to start branching off further in the digital thing because we're still in too many search results." So, and he was like, "I'm in South Africa. We'll talk when I get back." And I was like, "Right, okay." So the plan is at some point we're gonna try and make sure these two services that are coming out and growing in Ireland are separable. So that's an ongoing project. This is me with the team. If you trust us with your Amazon account, these are the top brass who will be handling it. We've actually had a wee girl since then as well. I need to get an updated photo. But you know, with the way Generation Z is going, I'm not too sure if these three are going to take over the company or whether we're going to have to bring in some expertise. So I suppose a bit about just really 30 seconds about sort of the north and so on. It's funny, you know. I thought about this in the drive down this morning. We sit in a funny position. Are we within .ie? Are we within .co.uk? And it's funny, I'm from Belfast, but live in Armagh. And the north overall seems to have had a bit of a renaissance in the south, you know, on a public side with Paddy Keatley Late Late Show, with President of the GAA, with Armagh win last year. And, you know, from my understanding, and the best way I can describe it is everyone in this room, or most of the people in this room, are Irish by default. However, there's 450,000 people in the north who are Irish by choice and have to be Irish by choice. They have an Irish passport, but they have to choose to be Irish. And I think that there, if I can ever quickly summarise the north and how the north feels, that's very much it. But live in the north, right in the border, in the south all the time. Client spread is now 60% south of the border, 40% north, with a bit of international and UK in that as well. And the one I'm here to talk to you about, outside of my political agenda there that I got it forward already, is the launch of Amazon.ie, and that's the big one, that's the payload. And ChatGPT's produced some great graphics for me in the last month that I can just kind of throw around. They've also decided there's a bridge going over to the UK in this one, I noticed when I was going through the notes this morning. And I don't know if that's happening, but Amazon.ie has certainly happened, and Amazon.ie has jumped forward. I guess they were toying around last year with it's going to be launched, and then it seemed to launch at 11:45 on St Patrick's Day when I was 3 whiskies in the middle of Kilkenny, very far from any thoughts on Amazon, and I had to send out a couple of quick messages to say, "Guys, here we go. We got to get moving here." So, strange choice by them. It has kicked off, and actually on it, what's happened is, and there's probably confusion in the room, be interesting to see what you think. Last year, is this mic still working? Yeah. Last year, this was the product selection on if you were an Irish customer shopping on Amazon because your app was running off Amazon.co.uk. So the total products available last year was 800 million to use on Amazon UK. Now, obviously, you get that really weird message whenever they don't ship to Ireland, and the whole thing's been a mess for years, but you did have the luxury of a huge selection. The problem is, as of St Patrick's Day, the selection on Amazon.ie has dropped down to about 120 million products. So the Irish offering on Amazon for Irish consumers has gone from here to here. Now, most people have said to me what they've done is they've moved back from Amazon.ie settings back to Amazon.co.uk settings. Interesting to see. I've seen a few nods there. And other people have said then the thing that annoyed them is the paddy tax, which is the fact it's dearer now to buy on Amazon.ie via the app than it was to buy previously on Amazon.co.uk. Amazon are a huge company. It's hard to communicate that back to them, that's the reality, but I'm attempting to. The reality so far for retailers is Amazon.ie is definitely going to come fast, but right now it's in this dip. So the reality of what that is in statistics is 45% of UK products unavailable. So that's unavailable even to be added So there's a promise that the products from the UK could be easily added to .ie, everybody would be happy, job done. Only 45% of them can. 65% of catalogue categories are unavailable, as in the category to put the product in is not there in the catalogue, so that's also a problem. And from my understanding, prices are floating 8 to 12% above Amazon UK's previous pricing. However, one thing I know about Amazon in 18 years of doing it is they will keep going here, and their budget is far greater than anything we can put together as a room. So I think they'll win out here, and I think Amazon.ie and Amazon.co.uk for your businesses here in the island of Ireland overall is definitely a good venture to look at. We had this conversation internally, like obviously we're here at a very much a D2C platform-based event, but Amazon doesn't live in opposition to that. Amazon lives with that. Amazon lives as an additional cash, additional revenue stream to your business. I'm going to go through some Amazon myths real quick to try and get to some of the more useful stuff, but I know these are always very useful because these answer the normal FAQs that I would get. And one is that Amazon fees can be negotiated down. 15% is really dear. That is incorrect, because Amazon's total fee bracket is larger than the UK VAT revenue. So I don't see that many people ringing HMRC in the UK and trying to negotiate their VAT rate down, because it doesn't work. And Amazon's 15% can't be negotiated down. So that's the end of that. I've had that argument with so many finance people, it's unreal. That is probably the most common one I ever get. Amazon will copy my product and steal my sales is another classic. Amazon has bigger worries, and Amazon has a bigger remit. Amazon are looking to go for the iconic brands on $1 billion level. If you have a SKU doing 14,000 euros a year, you might get picked up in one of their SOPs or one of their category copies, but they're not solely going for you. So don't worry about that too much. If you have that as a worry, you're already on the Bahamas, and somebody else is already owning your company at that stage, so don't worry about it. Fulfillment by Amazon is really expensive and storage is really dear. Fulfillment by Amazon is now quite competitive versus 3PLs, and the storage is probably below the competitive level, as in good value. You just can't leave 19 months of stock in an Amazon warehouse, otherwise they will start chipping away at you in costs. And my ROAS is 5x. This is another one on Amazon. If you're going to hear an Amazon talk, there's a 90% chance it's going to be about Amazon ads. I actually hate Amazon ads. We're an anti-ads agency. I had to check there was nobody from Amazon on the guest list today before saying these truths. But my ROAS is 5x, and I'm killing it on Amazon. ROAS historically has been ads revenue only. So if your ROAS is 5x and you're killing it, and your ads revenue is only 1% of your business, then yeah, you're killing it within that, but you've made a wrong decision somewhere, because your ads shouldn't be only 1% of your business. That ROAS is thrown around too easily. TACOS is the real one. The percentage of your ad spend over the amount of your ad spend over your revenue, or the percentage of your revenue that goes to ads, because that's the real measure, and that's the one to look at. And then the other big one is Amazon can be ran to mirror a D2C strategy. In my experience, and I've done this for a long time, I've never strayed into D2C like you think that it would be an easy step, but I do believe there's different people for different things. Now, there's not many of us in marketplaces. There's like 3 in Ireland that you could probably message and get a decent answer out of Amazon about. And the thing there is, I do believe there are different paths, and I do believe that the marketplace path is another substantial revenue source for you. So 20 minutes is down to 14 minutes, so I'm going to have to speed up a bit here. And the big one that I want to give to you is because, listen, I can try and sell Amazon all day long. That's not what this is about. This is a knowledge share. Is the algorithm and how the algorithm works, because I think this feeds into Google, Meta, and the other algorithms as well. And I've spent a long time trying to think about this, probably too long. Somebody would say to me, listen, you're not getting the ROI back from that. You need to kind of move on to the stuff that sells the good stuff. But algorithm for me is fascinating. When you hear algorithm, think of momentum. And it's a search and conversion journey, and you have to think of it in 2 parts. And algorithms power what someone sees on any page when they search for a string of words. That's pretty much how it goes. And the question of less relevance happens because it's a very, very competitive environment. What I mean by less relevance, the thing I've searched for here isn't on the page. And that's the problem in search. And ultimately what's happening there is somehow these sponsored are understandable, but also the SEO-led product listings have somehow managed to push ahead of the very product that should be there. So that's a problem, and you need to think about that in terms of customer journey. And the customer journey goes search, as in they put something in, they see a page of results, it goes imagery, listing details, and conversion. Everyone in my world only talks about that one, and it's infuriating. And it's like, my listing looks really good, and I'm like, yeah, but nobody's seeing it. And that's the big reality. So I try to educate on the rest of it. So a customer searches for an item on Amazon. The algorithm's job here is to suggest likely items the customer is going to type from the 800 million items that are there. And that's one search bar if you think about it. That's probably the hottest single place on the internet in the entire world, that little place right there. And 800 million items is hard to break down. But how a search funnel works typically, and again, this is interpretation, so don't take this as pure fact. If you put in red bag, those two words, the 800 million items available drops to 4 million. Why? Because 99% of the 800 million doesn't have those two words in it. It's an amazing thing with language. As soon as you put a word in that isn't in a large body of the other ones, it very quickly wipes down. So you follow that pattern through, and by the time you put in this very long search term, as you slowly learn, I need to be more direct, I need to be more descriptive, and you get down to this piece, this 6-letter string, or a long tail keyword as other people would like to call it, you're down to 0. Whatever million items, and you're down to probably items that are much closer to what you wanted. And the algorithm and how to beat it is really a maths game. I hear half the room turn off every time I say maths game. This is fairly simple. I failed A-level maths in the north, even though I loved maths, and that was largely because of the teacher and my disagreements with them, but it's very much a maths game, and it's 2 by 2 by 2, multiply not add, leads to 8, and these are ultimately points that each of these awards you. So customer service, imagery, and feedback each have 2 points. It's a multiplier effect. Total possible score is 8. So your job really is to get the best thing you can out of the 8. But my point on this is always 8 out of 8 in Amazon's impossible. They hate everyone. You know, they will never give that bastion to anyone except themselves. Like Amazon Warehouse deal is as a seller. I don't know if you've ever seen it. That's Amazon selling returned products. Like their feedback score on Amazon is 14%. Now the suspension line is a 90%. So they managed to exist 76% below the suspension line. That's called positive bias, and that is Amazon all over. So don't worry about getting 8 out of 8. The point here is you beat the competition. So long as the competition sits at 4.7 out of 8 and you have a 5.82, you win, and you come up better in search. That's a simplified version of how it works. However, I'm lying to you because I need to start in an easy bit and get more difficult. So the algorithm doesn't just measure 3 variables, it measures 150 variables. Those variables all multiply together and the total possible score is 8,192. I always doubt my maths on that one. I really need to check that. I actually think the number would be greater. But all of these numbers come together. Your total possible score is 8,192. But wait, the variables aren't fixed as in these ones. There's a percentage applied to each section. So the percentage is all based on importance. Price is a big one. Search relevance is a big one, and they start to move these numbers around. So it's quite a dynamic model. It's busy. There's a lot going on. They watch everything. Don't think that something you're able to do on Amazon is going to be missed. Like everything is monitored. Amazon is anti-change. So if you're going to change something, do it over a very long period, very slowly. And then this thing happens, and this is ultimately the inevitable thing of a few mistakes and a few priorities slipping, and Amazon's A9, which is their official term for it, algorithm killer defense mechanism, kicks in. I've added everything after algorithm. That's my own terminology. And this, we call this the red zone. We get like one of these every 2 weeks, and that is where someone is about to be suspended based on metrics. Now what they do is they immediately extend the importance of these metrics, and that percentage of those inflates because they're the ones that they're deeming to be good metrics to judge how you're doing, ultimately. And that's terrifying, and a lot of people end up in that position. It's probably easier to get out of it than it was 5 years ago. Nevertheless, tough, and you don't want to be there. Conscious of time, I've given this presentation a lot. This is always the one that gets photos, so feel free to take photos. And this is the financial breakdown of how Amazon ultimately works. And from my comparison and for me understanding businesses across the board, these are how the products usually fall in terms of financial breakdown to lead to the margin acquired. So a 10% contribution or trading margin requires this, 20%, 30%. And ultimately what happens is you need your product cost to drop. So your product cost would need to be 27% of your full item price to achieve a 10% margin based on the rest of these. The thing that doesn't change is the Amazon 15%. The other thing that doesn't change is the pound or euro cost to the shipping. However, if you raise your price, your shipping percentage will drop because your shipping remains stable and constant, whereas your top line would go up.
So UK tax is obviously the same as ROI tax, and ultimately what you have to do is try your best to get your product cost down, to control your ads and get your ads down, and those are really the only two metrics you can move to control your margin release. There's no negotiation with Amazon for the 15. The shipping is what it is, VAT is what it is. You have to move around very, very carefully between those, so I would always advise a lot of thought into that area. And the other one is, the big one is like equity in Amazon. How do I have equity? So we all know equity in D2C is a race for long life customers, race for ROI and so on. The equity in Amazon, when I ran 14 million sterling through this index, I was amazed because this graph is a math teacher's dream. And what this shows is the rank, which is your performance on Amazon. So a rank of 1 is good. Rank of 1 is top of category, as in top of 100 million products. Rank of 1 is really good. You want to be down there. But in order for you to get down there, which is a direct representation of your revenue, your reviews have to be huge. There's nothing that breaks that line, that very careful bend. And that's the algorithm's job, is to make sure that revenue goes where reviews are, and that's rewarded. And that's how you win on Amazon. You cannot go in and get 1 million. You have to go in small figures, small aims, achieve that, move on to the next one. That's probably one of the most important things I've ever learned doing this. The other one is an Amazon ads uplift. So we're anti-ads. We advise low spend on ads. Our average client ad spend is like 3%, 3.2. The industry average is 8.9. I think that's where our value add is in getting that down and representing people better. If you run ads on an existing product, you're going to get a 40 to 70% increase in price. That's what we usually see based on what people spend. However, if you run it in new products, you can see anywhere from 120 to 640% increase in revenue. And the reason for that, I think, is because whenever something doesn't get any search results, the revenue is going to be super low. If you give it ads and push it up, it's going to get a lot more very quickly. Whereas when you give an existing product ad spend, I think you're eating largely into your natural. And that's my quick sort of maths on that. Amazon Vine, not sure if anyone's heard of it. This is Amazon's approved reviews program. So this is a big one. And what we have always tried to do is ultimately be honest with clients. And this is the proof of where the Vine revenue, where the Vine kicks in and the revenue goes immediately up. A lot of people want to know that, so I've thrown that in there. And to open up on the reviews a bit more, when we ran this, what we also found was you need your ranking keywords to move up in a line very similar to this whenever your reviews are going up. And that seems to be the third part of the connection between ranks, reviews, and revenue. That one is hard to explain, but basically a ranking keyword is you exist on a page where, say someone searches red bag and you're on page 1, you rank for red bag. The average big SKU on Amazon would rank for about 2,000 search terms, which is a lot. So you're on the first page results for 2,000 different things the customer can search, and they will search 2,000. And the revenue follows that. And the great thing that we have found in long projects and long-standing relationship with clients is the ad spend comes down. So I was speaking in Newry yesterday just about a variety of stuff and trying to explain to retailers that aren't yet online about how e-commerce works. And we have a viewpoint here, probably more so in the south than the north, that Irish e-commerce is Irish e-commerce, but actually the network effect that we share with the UK as a huge trading partner is far greater than anyone knows. And I think evidence of that is the fact that some people estimated that Ireland is already north and south spending over €1 billion on Amazon per year, and most of that is coming straight out of the UK. Most of that isn't Irish retailers. My estimate for Irish retailers of that 1 billion is about 18% based on the people we know and the data available. And that's not good, because that for us then as a country is an import, which means products coming in but the money is going out. So we need to kind of look at that, and the big one for me is this internal domestic opportunity. And the Irish opportunity is being spurred on by a couple of movements at the moment that I really wanted to push. And one is, I didn't actually change that, that is the photo. That's terrifying, like that is the photo. I know everybody laughed yesterday and I was like, no, I didn't mess around or anything here. Like, the global free trade has been severely limited. What does that mean? Our dairy and our alcohol and spirits and so on are struggling to get into the US. But the other side of that as well is Brexit has separated Ireland from UK trade. And what that means is that main trading partner that used to export a lot here has been severely limited. And the big one that limited was the GSPR thing in December that nobody really knows, but ultimately a UK company to sell to Ireland, north and south, now needs an EU responsible person. And the details of that for UK companies are quite scary because they would have to bring on somebody who's probably not a UK national to be that representative. There's a lot to that. I don't know if that's the perfect legal explanation, but it's close to that. Everyone who sells on Etsy got a message saying, if you do not have an EU responsible person, we're turning off your Ireland-bound trade from today. And that message went out on December the 14th. We've already seen the statistics quickly change for the number of Irish orders on Amazon UK. So this big red line's kind of being introduced post-Brexit, which for anyone in the north who believes they should be in the south is a delightful line in comparison to the one that usually obsesses somewhere around here. And ultimately where I think that leaves us is slowing exports to the USA. That's not good for the economy, it seems, at this moment, but a reduction of UK imports, which is good for the local economy. And the big question that's left to me is can Ireland do better out of this? Can we turn this from a deficit that it probably is overall into a surplus? And this is ultimately down to you. This is down to the retailers, it's down to the brands. I think Amazon can be a big part of it alongside your D2C. I'm delighted to chat with anyone today about it, but mostly here just to learn and pick up with people and have a good day, really. So thanks for your time, appreciate it. Any questions, you know where to find me.